fascism is exhausting. I mean, that's on purpose, you know.
It's on purpose. It's like, I don't want to say it's exhausting because I don't want to give them the benefit of my energy, so I'm not exhausted. I'm ready to kick some ass.
Oh, I'm exhausted. And I'm a Marine, when I get exhausted because of you, I tend to get really mad.
Yeah, okay, fine. That's good.
I save all the rest of my energy. It was like, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna beat your ass for making me do this.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to be here because of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're here because like billionaires don't want to pay 5% more in taxes.
Oh my God.
We're here because you don't like you're upset that women want 401ks and a job. Like that's why we're here.
And Fred, I've been thinking about it, and a lot of people say, I'll never forgive people who voted for Trump. I'll never forgive people who didn't vote. It's like, okay, I get that we have ire for them. I'll probably forgive them, not the MAGA psychos, but, like just normal people who got bamboozled. But who I'll never forgive are people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and every single elected official from city council to president of the United States in every party who enabled them, not just during this election, but for the 250 years that came before, where they were trying to actually limit the democracy, limit people's power, and limit our ability to speak in the halls of power. I mean, that is who really needs to be held to accountability. And this continued ire at some dude in, I don't know, like Birmingham, Alabama, who's, middle of the road, but just like voted for Trump. Yeah, okay, he sucks for sure. But let's not direct the majority of our ire at that guy. Like, that's not our problem.
This is funny. I was talking to a friend of mine about this exact thing, and because and this is kind of where I land on this, right? Because I'm with you. And when we get to it, we're going to have a hard enough time holding the people in power accountable.
Right.
Like that's going to be tough enough, because what they're going to do is they're going to throw the little people at us.
Yeah.
As a shield, right?
Right.
It's like, well, you got to hold them accountable too. It's like, I don't know, Elon, like, it was like, are you going to hold 81 million Americans or 80 million Americans accountable? I'm like, no, bro, I'm just going to hold the guy who bankrolled Trump's election bidding regime.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you accountable.
Right.
Right.
We'll start there. We'll start with you, and then we'll see how far we got.
Right. Yeah. We'll start there. Because again, the guy, like my neighbor who is like a MAGA hat, and he vacillates back and forth between putting up the regalia and back down.
Yeah.
Like, if I have the Memorial Day barbecue and you happen to show up, it's like, you get one chance to get a steak. You talk about politics and give me an excuse, you get a hot dog.
Yeah. You're done.
And you don't shut up about it, you get out of my yard.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not going to be a good hot dog. It's going to
No, it's like literally looks like you get mustard and that's it.
Yeah, no.
It's like, I'll even though the author's terrible now, I'll do the Glengarry Ross on him. It's just like, what are you doing? Relish is for liberals. Get away from it.
Get away from it.
All you get is mustard. That's it. What kind of mustard I get? Brown.
Brown.
I like it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get French's. Too bad. No yellow mustard for you. Matter of fact, actually, yeah, yellow mustard. You yellow coward.
Yeah, I was gonna.
And then they'll want to leave anyway because I'll just be abusing them by that point. But, it's the Chuck Schumers and the Hakeem Jeffries and the people that slow rolled it.
Slow rolled it. Just slow
right.
rolled
Like, because again, what happened? Alex Priddy was murdered on the streets of Minneapolis.
Yeah.
By the Gestapo, right? And suddenly, lo and behold, the Senate Democrats were able to pull the ICE funding out of those 5 bills. wow, look at that. You actually did something and it worked.
Right. Well, and it's, I talk about this all the time, right? Like, why don't we as women, why isn't the ERA enshrined in law? Why
What?
isn't a woman's right to choose enshrined in law? The Roe versus Wade was never meant to be a permanent fix. It was always understood that it would then be enshrined in law. And what do the Democrats do with women's issues and with minority issues and with apparently democratic issues? Is they constantly hold it up like a carrot so we go to the polls. Well, and they bet that they will, get enough of us so that they don't actually have to do anything.
Yeah.
And then, as my friend Jane Ruby, who's the president of League of Women Voters Chicago, said brilliantly, the Democrats are really good at losing and fundraising off of it.
Yes.
Think about that. Think about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because every time they lose, "Oh, I need another $5. It's gonna have $15. It's midnight. It's almost midnight. Give me another little bit of money." No, do something. Do something because you know you can. And I am so excited about the influx of new candidates
Yeah.
for every office, challenging primaries for city council and Congress and everything in between that's coming up in this midterms because you know what? I'm done with this. Oh, you can't primary a Democrat if you're a Democrat. No. No, 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 no. You had your chance. And if we're gonna burn the house down and then rebuild it, that's what we're gonna do. Because you fucking let the termites in.
I mean, that's why, I mean, honestly, like, everybody has to approach politics in a different way. And I've changed my thinking recently, similar to what you're talking about. Where I'm just like, no, I'm not joining a political party. I probably never will again. I'm just going to be a truth telling bomb thrower. And that's it. Like
Yeah.
I'm here to just like try to do what I can to hold the powerful accountable. And it's other people to go, that crazy bearded guy has a point, right?
Yeah.
And just to try to move the needle. I tried organizing, I tried being in the party, I tried pushing them, and here we are. And it's the guy. I'm trying to remember his name. The guy for Indivisible. He had a great quote. I love it, and it's, you know, "I'm all for a big tent. I just don't want cowards in the tent."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
It the time for cowards and enablers. And to your point, it's the fundraising emails of like, Trump is the most existential threat this democracy's ever faced. That's why we're trying to work with him. What? Can you give
Yeah.
us $5?
Yeah.
You know,
No,
and
I need a latte more than I need your
right.
cowardice.
Do you have $50,000 you can give me, Frederick? I know that's crazy, and I never ask you that. But then can you give me this? I don't even want to give you 5 cents
Yeah.
because you haven't done anything to earn it.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I'm doing this for basically free. You're doing this for basically free. And it's like, I don't have money to give to you. I need money to support the work that I am doing. And I
right,
think it's true of a lot of people, it's not just the folks who are on here yammering like you and I on Substack Live, but you're out in the streets. You're, talking to your neighbors. You're a better political activist and more effective than a lot of our elected leaders are. And
right,
that's also what they don't want us to know because if we understand that, that's when really, right, when we understand that we, the people, are where the power sits, that's when it really starts to change. But I think, man, people are waking up to the fact that they have to understand that because the murder of Renee Good and then Alex Pretty, right? Renee Good was horrifying enough. But
Alex Pretty was even somehow just even worse.
yeah,
Like it was just
I mean, because he walks up to I can't even talk about it, but yeah, I don't know if it was I don't know. They were both horrific. But for me, what the extrajudicial assassination of Alex Pretty did was establish a pattern.
mhm,
This was not a one-off. This was not a rogue agent. This was not a little psycho. And the fact that it was one guy who walked up to Renee Pretty and shot her in the head 3 times, okay? Then it was how many agents
like
who
5 or whatever it was.
5
Yeah.
who murdered Alex Pretty? Now you have a rogue agent versus a gang, okay? And
Mhm.
why did they do that also, Fred? I wanted to talk to you about this last week. Why did they murder Renee Good and then murder Alex Pretty. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the Democrats voted for more ICE funding, and they understood this to be, and rightfully so, right? This was the message that the Democrats were sending. Yes, we will not stop. We will not stand in your way as you continue to murder Americans and abduct immigrants in the street. We certainly will not stand in your way. In fact, we're going to give you more money to do exactly that.
Mhm.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? And you
Right.
know what? They said, "Okay, thanks. We message received loud and clear." And then they shot Alex Pretty how many times? 10 times. Okay?
What? Yeah.
Actions have consequences, and that was the consequence of the Democrats in Congress voting to authorize more ICE funding.
I mean, it's interesting because you look at this from a tactical perspective, and you look at it, when the tactics of fascism, right? You cannot put in place a strategy where ICE, the Gestapo, is in all places at once in America. It's too big, right?
Right.
But what you can do is let the fear of that retaliation do the heavy lift for you, right? You can silence the media through tear or capitulation. You can silence local law enforcement. You can do all these things. And so what do? It's like the mafia, right? You don't want other business owners getting in their head and getting out of line and going to police. You make a public spectacle and execution, right?
Yeah.
What you do public acts of violence, savage acts of violence, and with the understanding like, oh, if we come to your city, this is how we're going to roll, and if you protest, you know, you raise your voice, I'll raise your voice, like that one ICE
Yeah.
agent. What
Well,
they didn't count on was us going, "Oh, really? Oh, okay." You know?
yeah. And right, it's so interesting to me that right these extrajudicial assassinations come after the Fox News headline "Wine Moms Disrupting ICE, federal investigations."
Yep.
Okay, as a mom, it is a different formula. It's a different arithmetic for me to go out on the street and protest when I know that, hey, I might get arrested. But they're just going to take me downtown in the van. I'm going to be with my friends and they're going to release me. That's the worst that's going to happen, right? That
Right.
has been my understanding in the past. Now it's your children might be orphans if you go to this protest. Are you
Mhm.
going to go? Are you going to go? And I'm going to go because I would rather be dead than let my children grow up in a fascist nation. I'll tell you that right now over my dead body. And I mean it. But that's not the arithmetic of a lot of women, and I understand that. I certainly sympathize with it, and that is definitely their intent. When it is women, and particularly mothers,
Yep.
who are again and again the most effective force in political change,
Mhm.
they change the arithmetic to take us off the board or to try to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like this is going around, so there's another video, um, and it's in a way, it's just as horrific, but because of the severity of Renee Good and Alex Preety, it's not getting as much traction, right? Is Minnesota mother
Yeah.
goes out to start her car
Mhm.
because it's cold, right?
Mhm.
ICE grabs her. Her kids are inside, and she's yelling for her neighbors, "Please, somebody watch my kids. Somebody take care of my kids. They're too young." And they take her in the van and take her away. There's no adult in the house. Nobody stays from like the state or whoever to take care of the kids because Bovino stood up and said, "Oh, we have to save the children," but you're snatching a mother who's literally warming up her car and leaving small children in the house, not even caring what happens. And we're hearing all these stories coming from the ICE camps of these little kids that are getting sick and dying because they don't have medical care. But you want to tell me you care about the kids.
Mhm. I mean, at this point, they're concentration camps.
Yeah.
We have built concentration camps in this country and we are filling them up. with the people that we deem to be inhuman, that our federal government deems to be inhuman. And
And we've done it before. We've done it throughout history,
yeah,
right?
I know it's not, and of course, first with the indigenous people, right? There is
Yeah.
the historical infrastructure to do this. And yet it is still shocking that we are
Yeah.
finding it to be happening in 2026. And
2026.
2026.
2026.
And I also just want to talk about, you know, the news is so rapid fire, but the arrest of Don Lemon last night and three other
Yeah.
Black journalists whose names, and I'm going to mispronounce the first one, I apologize, but it's important to say their names. Tareen Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamil Lundy. They're all Black. They're all Black.
Of course.
And Trump administration is getting pushback because ICE murdered two white people. And what do? They
They go arrest black people.
to
Yeah.
Black people. I mean, it is Jim Crow, white supremacist, KKK, come and burn a cross on your lawn 101. I mean, I'm not often shocked by this administration, but the blatant racism of this theatrical move is
Yeah.
to me unbelievably unmasked
Yeah.
and deliberate and purposefully trying to incite a race war and animus between Black people and white people and use that theater
Yep.
for their own purposes. I mean, it's not the first time, but to me, this is one of just the pivot, the hard pivot. How do we get away from this new cycle of the extrajudicial judicial murder of an ICU VA nurse? Oh,
Yeah.
let's arrest Black people.
Well, I mean, he tried with the. I mean, it was because again, it's all these other things he's trying to do to distract us from the impending implosion in the economy that's also coming, as Jerome Powell talked about this week. And that, like last night, it was funny because last night a buddy of mine calls me up and he said, "Man, are we invading Cuba?" I was like, maybe, I don't know. Like, you never can tell, right, with this administration. And he's like, "Well, Trump just wrote an executive order, and we were going through it." And he sat down. He says, "You know what? Like, let me see all the countries we've threatened in the past month." And we started going down the list, and it was like over a dozen.
Mhm.
And he says, "Yeah, because we kidnapped Maduro on January 3rd." I was like, "Holy shit, that was this month? Really? I thought
That's
that was like 3 months ago." You
it's
know,
at least.
seriously. And I did for like a sec. I was like, "Wait a minute, that was this year? Like, no, we kidnapped him like before Christmas." And it's because it's just the slam, like as we started the show, it's designed to exhaust you because it's not like one thing a day, it's 10 things a day. And it's all designed to be crazy.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about the Roman Empire, as one does.
Are you becoming an incel? Is that what's happening? It's like, are you listening to like goth synthwave and you know what and like read not read because they don't read about the Roman
They
Empire.
don't read about it, they just
Let's
think about it. And maybe
right.
they
It's like
watch, like, really rapey docuseries about it.
yeah, I think about the Roman Empire. Have you read Livy? No.
Oh,
Have you read Suetonius? No. Have you
no.
read Plutarch or any of the
Who are
no.
they?
Ugh. Do you know about have you read
About the Roman Empire, Fred. I've been thinking about it. And
I just think about it, It's like, what do you think about? Oh, I watch clips from Fallout New Vegas about Caesar. That's not the Roman Empire. Like, no. They crack me up with that, man. Like,
Fred, I'm serious. I've been thinking
no,
about
I know you have, and I have at times, you know, but these guys are like, think about the Roman Empire. You're just playing 40K, aren't you? Yeah, I'm just playing
yeah,
40K.
yeah, yeah. Historically accurate, right?
That's what it's based on. Same thing, bro. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
so of course, historians have been trying to pinpoint the cause of the decline of the Roman Empire since the day after it started to decline. But my favorite theory comes from Marshall McLuhan, who wrote
Okay.
The Sea as the Message. And he just wrote it. He didn't write a lot about it. He just wrote it sort of as a one-off. But he noted right around the time that the Roman Empire began to decline, Biblios, which is where we
Mhm.
get the word book, and Bible, which was the main exporter of papyrus from which they made paper, uh, began to boycott the Roman Empire and refuse to sell them their paper, any more of their product, which is their paper. Now, what is the Roman Empire? Where does the Roman Empire gain its power? It gains its power largely from bureaucracy. And what
Yes.
does bureaucracy run on at that time? Paper.
Yeah.
So, in depriving the Roman Empire from its basically mode of communication, and mode of maintaining power, which is that bureaucracy, it could no longer communicate with itself, and it began to crumble shortly
Mhm.
thereafter. And there are a lot of other, factors. Of course, there's not just one reason, but this was, I think, one of the main contributory factors to the decline of the Roman Empire. And one could also say this is sort of the Death Star model, right? Like there's this one weakness that they were able to pinpoint and target, and therefore blow up the Death Star. So I don't really have an answer to this, but I'm like, throughout history, right?
Mhm.
There is always this Achilles heel
Yeah.
uh, of of these regimes, of these power bases. And what is that Achilles heel, right? Because it is exhausting, right? It's 10 things a day. What
It
is
is.
the one thing that we can continue to pinpoint and draw out or deprive them from that will fundamentally destabilize their power base?
Yeah.
And maybe that's the Epstein files. Maybe
I think it
we need to go back to that.
I think it is. I honestly I didn't know McLaughlin as like a McClune. I didn't know the thing about papyrus. Like I mean, and that does make sense. I mean, the thing, the sort of bigger picture when you pull out, and then again, man, I'm gonna get into the weeds with this. Is like, because it really like what you define the Roman Empire as, like it, because if I had a professor in grad school who was like, if you're a Romophile, then you go all the way up to Byzantine and the fall of Constantinople, and that's the
Yeah.
true. If you're not, and you want to, or you're a medievalist and you want the Middle Ages to start earlier, it's the fall of Rome when the sacking of the Goths in 472, and so you kind of pick your dates there, right?
Yep.
But the fascinating thing, if we're talking about sort of like the empire as a whole, and even if we include the tetrarchy under Diocletian, you're really
You
talking.
think about the Roman Empire, don't you, Fred?
Here's the thing, incels, I've actually read about it, you know, because I was one of those weirdos when I was growing up where it's like, I'm about to become an officer in the United States. I want to be an officer in the United States Marine Corps, so I have
Mm.
to read all this history,
Yeah.
right? So I can become an officer.
Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please
No, that's
carry
fine.
on.
But like, but no, but I mean, what you kind of see is similar to what's happened. If you're looking for like parallels, if you're looking for rhyming, right?
Mhm.
It's the extraction model because Roman how they fed the beast, right? Like when you gain power is you conquered other territories. So it's an extractive model,
Yeah.
right? So like Caesar and Pompey in the first triumvirate were wealthy because they conquered other lands and pulled them in, right? They basically extracted the wealth from other people. Crassus, on the other hand, got his money by basically being an asshole and doing a fire insurance scam, right? Like he had a fire brigade in Rome.
Do you know
Uh,
that that's where the term fire sale comes from?
Is it from him?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what like you can read about this. I think it was Plutarch that wrote about it. I could be wrong. It might be Suetonius, but
I think it was
they
Pluto.
for everybody, like, so basically what Crassus would do and why he wasn't popular is somebody's house would be burning in Rome, and he'd say as it was burning, like, hey, I'll buy this at a quote fire sale price
Yeah.
and we'll put it out. If you're not going to sell me your property,
The
then
ground.
burn in the ground, then I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Right. And, but that's why he went to war in Parthia, is because he didn't have as much respect as Pompey and Caesar. Like the trait they called it back then was virtus, which is martial manliness. So he didn't have the Roman virtus. There were certain when you get into sin culture, there were values in Rome that was like religio, which was what we get the term religion from, and that was more of a outward showing of piety. It's not like, the relationship with the deity, but it's like, do you go to the temple on the days you're supposed to go? And so
Mhm.
there's, I think it was virtus, religio, dignitas, pietas, all those kind of values. And but what was fascinating is, as this sort of grew and they stopped sort of conquering lands, and Hadrian's faced with this problem after Trajan, which is, you have all this land, how do you administer it? How do you, because the extractive model of wealth no longer works,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So, because how that worked is, this is at where you actually made your money as a conqueror. So let's say we go and conquer Gaul, like France, and we loot it and pillage it. That's part of it. But then the other part of it is, as the governor, why they took a census was, they say, okay, there's this much land, there's this many people, there's this much stuff. Then you would go back to Rome and you would sell that rights to tax the land to
Mhm.
private interests, right? So if we say, for instance, let's just, like, there's 100 billion in France, right? And we're going to sell that as part of the Roman government for $80 billion or 70 billion, right? To say Elon Musk or Amazon or whoever bids for it and gets it. Now, do you think when they start collecting taxes that they're going to stop at 100? Oh, well, it's only 100 billion.
No.
Now stop. No, because they are now under the protection of Roman authority. They're going to squeeze every single dime they can out of that. If
Yeah.
they can get 110, 120, 130, and that's why in the Bible and other places, people hated the tax collector. It's not because they were part of the government, it's because
Right.
the government backed a private interest.
Mm.
And then what you have with people like Crassus, who set that model, is you have what's called the latifundious system, where these rich landowners, they became oligarchical, they start consolidating these massive land holdings, and they're slave run. And so if you have a massive your society's basically agricultural, and you have this massive slave farm that you don't have to pay for, what's the chances that your small village of freeholders is going to be able to stay there for very long and compete against that?
Not long. But I do wanna go back to your point about that the government would subcontract out tax collection to
Yep.
private entities. Because now when we look at, right, the billionaires getting more and more and more and more tax breaks on the
Yep.
back of working Americans, basically our government has been transformed into a privatized
Mhm.
taxation collection system for corporations and wealthy individuals.
Right.
I mean, and it really I don't know if you could describe it in any other way. Um, and also, just side note, I was watching, speaking of historical fact, Robin Hood, the
The Kevin
cartoon,
Costner one?
the cartoon one, no, the cartoon
Or
one.
was it the Errol Flynn one with the tights and,
No, okay. First of all, it's cartoon is the
Oh,
number
that's
one,
the best one. I love
and
the
then
Disney one. Yeah.
Kevin Costner. And then talking about etymology is, speaking of the Epstein files, etymology is like my pastime. Do you ever remember that phrase "in Lake Flynn"?
Yeah. I thought it came from that TV show.
No, it came from the fact that Errol Flynn was tried for statutory rape and got off, and
Are you
it said,
serious?
"Yes, in Lake Flynn, in Lake Flynn." So,
What?
yes, yes, 100%. So,
I literally thought it was from the show Our Man Flint. I think that's what it.
in Lake
Wow,
Flynn.
are you
That
serious?
Yes, that was the headline.
Oh my god,
Today, which
that's
is a
that
win.
phrase is ruined for me now. I can't say that.
Sorry about that. You know,
You know. Oh,
pedophilia among the powerful.
I kind of feel dirty right now.
It's a tradition.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Oh my god. Oh, that's funny. That wow, that's where it comes from?
yes, yes, yeah.
Oh, it's like the phrase, like it's not as well, it's similar, like where we miss, you know, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which was actually a slam against, the rich back in the Gilded Age saying, "Oh, we'll just, work yourself up, blah, 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 blah," from and they're
Oh,
like,
really?
"Yeah, I'll just pull myself up on my bootstraps," because like, you still see them with boots, that little what a bootstrap is, that little thing on the end, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And, it's like and they had pictures and cartoons of a guy standing and trying to pull himself up, you know, with his fingers in the bootstraps. And so it's a sarcastic phrase. And now like the right loves to use it as like, yeah, it's self-improvement. It's like, no, man. It's like you can't do it. You
Yeah.
literally can't do it.
I
You
know, and
know,
it's like, don't let, one bad apple, right? Like, oh, when you say it's just it's not a problem because it's just one bad apple. Well, it's one bad apple spoils the
boils a bunch. Yeah.
because the bad apple produces like cyanide type gas that will ruin everything. So one
Yeah.
bad apple actually does
Does spoil a bunch.
yeah.
Yeah. It does. It's fascinating where we get these phrases, but again, like, going real, but like you see, if you're looking at parallels, what really happened, like to the papyrus point,
Mm,
is they Hadrian was one of the reformers that helped build the thing that we think about as the bureaucracy, right? Where
mhm. Yeah.
he knitted the empire together,
Mhm.
and it built this bureaucracy to lead to the Pax Romana, right? A piece of Rome.
Yeah.
And it was connected by roads, by a common shared language, but more importantly, like a bureaucracy,
Mhm.
right? And once you you get rid of the mechanism of that bureaucracy, and we're kind of seeing that with Doge and what they did, and what we've seen over the successive decades of tearing down the federal government, which would go into places that private business did not want to be in. And Mamdani's sort of the antidote is trying to right that in New York, because as we've talked about before, private business doesn't want to open grocery stores in New York. It's not profitable for them. It's not
Right.
profitable enough. So, but people still need to eat. So what do? And you've we've to your point, we've created this system where it's not about, oh, letting billionaires and the rich have money to invest and do innovation and everything else. No, it's literally just, let's give them public resources in land
Yeah.
and water and
Yeah.
power and like taxpayer money at the expense of us.
Yes, and again, like Jeanette Rankin, who I wrote the book about, first congresswoman from Montana, right? She sees that the federal government is just giving public lands, mines, uh, forestry, hydroelectric power, things that should belong to the people,
Yep.
private interests, just because they fucking asked,
Right.
over dinner at the club, basically. And right, we're continuing to see that happen. Where I am in California, the federal government is reopening federal lands for private drilling.
Right.
Okay, those are our lands. Are we gonna are okay, that's our land. Do we get the money?
No.
No. We don't get a dime. Not one dime. But we get
Right.
to have our ecology ruined. And
Right.
then Sable Offshore Drilling, who owns if you all know Southern California, they own a number of offshore drills that have been shut down for years because the oil spill that was caused by them was so bad that it actually catalyzed the first Earth Day. Okay, they get to go back online because they went to our county board of supervisors and said, "We're going to sue you until your county is bankrupt if you don't let us reopen these." And our board of supervisors said, "Oh, okay, go ahead."
Oh,
So,
Yeah, it happened to a friend of mine in, Fairfax County, Virginia. And he basically was, he is so they're trying to do, the AI centers out there, right? And build up all these luxury apartments, blah, 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 and it's like, where they wanna do it, it's like, okay, but we have, geological studies that say any development on this land of that kind is going to ruin the water table. And now you have all these people that live in this community, and that's going to affect their water and this and that. And he's like, and laid this all out. I mean, it's all public knowledge, right? So you can just lay it out. He's like, we need to do a study and we need to do impact study and this and that and yada yada. And basically it was like, you know, their response was like, yeah, but it's going to be better for the community because of jobs. And even when they exposed them for like, "Oh, you've gotten these kickbacks from these developers," because one of the things the developers didn't want was, normally with that stuff is like, "Okay, you can do this, but then you have to set aside money to actually clean it up." No,
Right.
they
No,
waived that. They waived that too,
yeah.
right? So it's like like to your point, it's like we get to bear the burden
We bear the burden.
of all this cost while they rake in the money and could go and live on a private island, or they can go in their enclaves
We're
of
their
in
bunker while we fight World War III.
yeah, or we're like, hey, the water table's bad. We're gonna have to abandon a community now
Yeah.
because the water, like that's happening in Iowa from all the agricultural runoff that was not, and it's happening in my state
Mhm.
in Southwest in my district that Lauren Boebert's in, who tried to get cleanup for that, and Trump was like, "No." Now, why? And these citizens, and again, in the very reddest rural areas, are saying, "Yeah, but we really need that."
Too bad. The
Yes, you might have. Maybe you should have gone a different way then.
Yeah. I mean, and I just it's you mentioned that, right? The Doge and the dismantling of the federal government is itself, right, which has been done by the Republicans, is itself destabilizing,
Yeah,
right? Kind of the empire. But it's so odd, and I will never understand this, that it's destabilizing it among their voters,
yeah,
right? Like I mean, yes, I feel the effects of the Trump administration to a certain degree. I pay more at the grocery store. I the fear for my right to vote. I am grateful for the leaders that I have and some of the leaders in my district, Um, but for the most part, I still have a post office. I have clean water. I have food stability. I have roads that are safe to drive on. I have schools that are safe for my kids to go to and well resourced. But where people don't have that are exactly where the people who voted, right, to have their lives dismantled. And there was this very interesting map of Maine recently, right, where they're sending ice next because, oh, Maine, that's really where we have big southern border problems. Okay, Susan
mhm.
Collins, you might want to locate your spine at some point. Moving on. Um,
Oh no, she got a pledge from them to, that they're not going to
oh,
invade
really?
hers.
Maybe she wants to talk to Lisa Murkowski about that pledge. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you know.
Um, anyway, how to go for Alaska? Great. No, I don't think so. Um, basically overlaying SNAP benefits, who gets SNAP benefits versus who voted for Trump.
Right.
And they were exactly the same. The higher the SNAP benefit recipients, the higher the percentage voted for Trump. And how did Fox News engineer, and now the whole magosphere, engineer that cognitive dissonance? That is a form of insanity at this point. And how do we reverse engineer that? I mean, I think that's really one question of the day. And the second question that I've really been thinking about, and this is somewhat tangential, but I've been studying Nazi activity in the 1930s in New York City, which was actually quite prominent. And how they were trying to build a propaganda system
Yeah.
that would stretch throughout the eastern United States. And LA had its own that would sort of migrate east to the western United States. But FDR's administration was very aggressive on multiple levels, including the establishment of the FCC in dismantling those propaganda
Yeah.
networks.
Uh-huh.
How was there such a dereliction of duty by our elected officials that they did nothing for decades as Fox News, like, the frog in the boiling water, ratcheted up its disinformation?
Yeah.
And how did we not also investigate all these Nazi propaganda, Instagram and X and so on and so forth, MAGA accounts that are now, we understand, are from foreign countries? How do we not have any semblance of protection as American citizens from this kind of fascistic disinformation campaign? Like, where were our leaders on this? I mean, the just like severity of the dereliction of duty is to me mind-boggling. And
Now,
where can we have the accountability for that?
I think, you know, I think where we're at is it depends on really where you look at this from a historical lens, right? Is either we because part of the hard part for us is like we grew up in this time of this kind of stability, right? But
Mhm, yeah.
we were on one side of the fence. Like I had this conversation with my sister the other day where I've been kind of fortunate where like because of the work I chose to do and everything I've lived among a lot of places. I've worked with all kinds of folks from all over the spectrum, you name it, like culturally, intellectually, educational, all that. And you either think like, oh man, we once had it awesome, and we've fallen, it's and in some ways that is true because you can find it like the Warren Court and this and that where we've progressed and we've added more civil rights and we've done this and we've done this. But the other part of it is like these people have always been here and that status quo has always been doing what it's doing. Like I think the blueprint, the guy who wrote it, I can't remember the report, but it was a judge who wrote it in the 70s that they're carrying out now, right?
Mm,
Which is he said basically you take over the media, like everything the right has done
mhm,
they're doing. And he wrote this right after Roe, right?
yeah.
These uppity women have gotten too much. We got to put them back in their place. And same with the minorities. Got to get them back. So, and they've been following it ever since. And it's we're finally at a point where like there was enough like during the pandemic. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and this is right before it hit, right?
Mm,
And we were saying, yeah, if Trump gets out of office, we got this, and he's like, and he worked in government in the DOD and law enforcement, and he said, what the surprising thing to me is with all the stuff that they're doing behind the scenes, screwing everything up, we just keep on going, and it's just I didn't understand how big America was and could just run with inertia. And
yeah.
that's what it's been, is we've just been running with inertia, right?
Mhm,
It's like
mhm.
it just takes a little more, it takes another hit, it takes another hit, takes another hit, and it's like it gets a little harder, but we'll just keep going. And finally we've run out of inertia.
It's because that's so interesting, Fred, because, like, to me, the most powerful force in the world is inertia. Like, once
Yeah.
you get it going, to stop it takes so much more work.
Yep.
And, yeah, we're seeing exactly that,
Fareed
and
Zakaria said the same thing years ago when he was talking about like, on his show. And I remember him saying this, it's like, "Oh, did America really fall down?" He's like, "No, not really," because he's talking about economically, right? And he's like, "If you look at our trend line overall, we've been, going here, we've diversified, we've done this." He says, there was such a gap that we had after World War II because
Mhm,
our
yeah.
industrial base and our size and everything was still relatively intact, and we were leading the way and like everything, science, innovation, this, that, and that. We had such a head start. It's just the world finally caught up to us.
Yeah.
And we got lazy. We believed in our BS of, "Oh, we're exceptional," you know? And how many people, like, took their like, just they didn't have to watch their politician because either they said, "Well, they're all the same," which they
Mhm.
kinda were, right? Or, like, there wasn't real like, there's nothing I can do. There's this and that." It's like slowly over time, these things got chipped down, and then all of a sudden you look around and go, "Wait a minute, we're here?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and I certainly didn't understand this to the degree that I do now, right? Because it was intellectual before. Now it's very concrete. But the miracle that is government and the amount of work that went into creating these systems.
Yep.
And, again, thinking back to we're at a point in a lot of places where we're going to have to start over again, right? Even for medical care, basic medical care, uh, food delivery, mail. All of these things are being eroded and taken away from rural communities to the point where you're going to have this very strange, almost developing nation, right? Uh, uh, Disparity in not just wealth, right? We can talk about oligarchs all day, but also just in access to public resources.
Yeah.
And that is going to accelerate exponentially, even if the Democrats get back in power, because you can't just rebuild that overnight. And then there's not the money. There's not the money to repair what
You
has been destroyed.
No. Well, you've written about this, especially with Jeanette Rankin, and
Mm,
and for those of you who have not picked up her book, Shameless Plug, it is awesome,
thank you.
and but during her era, right?
Yeah.
The Wisconsin idea. Like,
Yeah.
think about this, Pete. I want you guys to think about this. If I were to say to you, a government is supposed to help the community that elects them, right? Their electorate. The government's supposed to represent and help.
Radical.
You're like, duh. Of course, it's always been that way. No, it hasn't. That was an idea that came about in the reason it's called the Wisconsin idea, which became progressivism as we know it,
Yeah.
was in the late 19th century. It's not even 2 centuries old because before that, government existed to help the rich.
Yes.
That was it. There was no helping the common person. Like, that was like, are you nuts? Like, why
Yeah.
would you wanna help those people?
That's socialism, friend.
Right? That's
What
crazy.
the
Like,
apple for?
those people? No, you gotta help capital, you gotta help power. Like, those are the ones that matter. Those people, they just need to be led by a strong hand.
Yeah.
That was it.
And
And
worked to death. Literally worked to
that
death.
was it. Like, think about this. The concept of, hey, the government should provide money for widows and orphans, not unmarried women, literally widows and orphans. And you
Uh,
think, like,
un
didn't they always do that?
soldiers.
No, no, they didn't.
No.
They said that's up to the church if they feel like doing it.
Yeah.
And and that came about in the 30s. That's not even a century old, which became Social Security. That's how new these ideas are.
Well,
And
and we forget that, and it's I just feel the myth of America is so okay, this is somewhat tangential, but I t the myth of America is what creates the reality of America, not the reality of America.
correct.
And it is such a dangerous place to be because if you don't understand the reality of America, then your reality, if you don't understand the history, then your current reality can change very easily, right? Because we've never addressed the underpinning issues. And going back to our early conversation about racism in this country, you know, people think that because we fought the Civil War and the North won, that suddenly, the issues of racism were somehow addressed.
Oof.
No, they weren't even close to being addressed.
No.
Nothing to do with addressing racism or a sense that Black people are equal to white people. That had nothing to do with the Civil War. And I'm sure there are many Civil War historians that will, you know, uh, challenge this statement, but as a blanket statement, I think the facts of the reality bear me out. And the same, frankly, true, Fred, is the same, Fred, frankly, is true of World War II. Americans think that because we liberated the Jews from the concentration camp, we dealt with anti Semitism in this country. People don't understand. the presence of concentration camps was suppressed by FDR and the Jewish community in the United States because they understood that this country was so anti-Semitic that
Mhm.
if they believed that we were going to Europe to liberate the Jews from concentration camps, that Americans wouldn't go. Okay. So you have, instead of this addressing of anti Semitism, you have this one moment where you do. And I'm thankfully, and thanks to all the people who sacrificed their lives for doing this, liberated the survivors from these hells on earth. But that didn't change the
No.
underpinning anti Semitism in this country. And we have not yet gone back and addressed these issues. And so when we talk about, these things are new, right? That's why, because we don't know it. That's why it's so easy for the Stephen Miller and Trump regime to revert back to this earlier mythological idea of America in which white supremacy is the understanding,
Yep.
because it hasn't gone anywhere. It's still in the DNA of the United States of America.
Yep.
And that's what we have to address. And it sounds so esoteric, but again, like with the arrest of Don Lemon and the other three Black journalists, the history, the living history of white supremacy could not be more manifest or tangible. And I guess that's why that was so shocking to me. It's because it's just, what is it? The specter, right, of American racism, uh, put on display for all to see, and some to rebel against and others to worship. It's almost, uh, I don't know, otherworldly in a lot of ways.
I think that I think, and again, it's all in how you want to look at it, right? Um, I think part of the lie that we've been pushed in is this notion that we've always been united, right? That we're supposed to be a united people, moving in one direction, one purpose, and that's really just kind of propaganda, right?
Yeah.
There's been a few times we sort of come together, you know, but to your point, when Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, there were places where half the units quit and went home
Yeah.
because they said, "Well, we're not fighting to free slaves. We're fighting to keep the Union together. I'm not fighting for black people."
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm going home. Screw you, right? And that's one of the reasons that they said, "Okay, we have to have black troops now," is because they lost a lot of manpower, you know. And so it's like that's the thing Pete Hegseth wants to forget is about several 100,000 black folks who were paid less than white folks fought for this country.
Yep.
And then the thing is, like, Sanders said, "When are we going to get our shit together as a country?" Well,
Who did?
Sanders Stephan, right? She said, "When are we
Oh
going to get our
yeah.
shit together?"
Okay.
So, but if you look at history, right, we've never really been, for most of our history, we've never been united. We've just been like squabbling amongst ourselves, with the rest of the world. We're a quarrelous kind of people. That's what we do. So the thing is, it's not to look at and lament like, "Oh,
How it
man,
was.
we're not united. We used to be united. We're not." It's like, no, there were people that were, Teamsters that were going and taking one in the chin and fighting for their labor rights. There were women like Jeanette Rankin and the suffragettes that were going out, and there were people that were being attacked in Montgomery and Selma.
And
And it's, which tradition do you choose?
which tradition do you choose? And also, which do you have available to you? Like in, oh God, what was it? 1911, right? The Triangle Shirtwaist Fire,
Yeah,
where 141 women from ages 14 to 41 were burned alive or jumped to their death in Astor Place in New York City because management had locked them in and locked union organizers out of this garment factory.
yeah,
Now, this incident was followed by huge protests that really catalyzed and changed the labor movement. And it is
yeah.
because of women's organizing that we have the labor movement that we do today. And this isn't to take anything from the incredible men, the Teamsters who took it on the chin, who went out there, who organized, who are my heroes as well, from Cesar Chavez, from Dolores Huerta, who is a woman, of course. And also from the farmer student. But anyway, if we do not have the totality of our history, which is very much the point of the people
Right.
keep it from us, then we can't possibly build the power base that would be capable of challenging the current power base. And I also think, I want to conclude. I gotta go because I gotta get a pizza for my kid. But like I was just talking to the women's suffrage monument folks. Do you know guess how many monuments or statues on the National Mall are dedicated to women? Guess.
I'm gonna say 0.
You're correct, Fred. Ding, 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 ding. Tell him what he's won. Yeah, this will be the first. This will be the first.
Yep.
And to change, right? The National Monument is a physical manifestation of the myth building of America. And myth building is important, right? When we talk about when we are unified, it's when we all sort of buy into this myth. And there's a place and a time for that. And it can be important, it can be unifying, it can be empowering, but only if it accurately reflects in some way the actual people, right, who are part of that mythology. And in placing this women's suffrage monument on the mall, which they fought tooth and nail for, by the way, they didn't want to put it in the mall, but they got it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Well, okay, I don't want to go into it, but they it's not that they didn't want to, it's that they didn't think about it. And then the Monument Foundation went back and they're like, "Hey, how about this?" And then it was like, "Oh, right, there's no women on the mall. Let's do that." So it was, fine. But in any case, putting the monument in the mall, on the mall, fundamentally changes the manifestation of the American mythology of how our democracy was derived and where it can go. And I think that to just end on a positive note is incredibly powerful. And speaking of the Trump regime, I really think they understand that the tide is rising and that this is, right, their levee wall that they hope will protect them from the wave that is coming. Rebecca Solnit said very wisely in Trump 1.0,
Mm.
they are the dam, we are the river, and the river
Nice.
wins in the end.
It does. I would just, real quick before you go, because I you
Yeah.
got the pizza, but I would just hope it would reflect, at least for women in America this moment. I would like to see like a group of bronze statues of women that are looking really just like, exacerbated and just kind of, wagging their fingers at like put it right in front of the Lincoln Memorial where he's
We
sitting down.
told you.
Like he's sitting down and just have like, like, yeah, we could call it the I told you so monument, you know?
We could no, I like it, but we could, like, rotate it out,
Yeah.
Abigail Adams and Jeanette Rankin, but also, like, AOC in there, and then,
Right. I literally I just want a woman looking at her watch like, you know,
how about now?
that's right. Yeah, how about now? You know, and a bunch of founding fathers like, we'll get to it. Jeez. Gosh.
Well, and I'll end with my favorite quote by Abigail Adams, which I just read again today. It is important that you pay special care to the ladies, lest we foment a rebellion and do not feel obliged to follow any of the laws we had no part in making.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
You know, John got the better. He got the better part of that arrangement. Abigail was awesome. Like
Oh,
she
yeah.
was like she was a much smarter woman than John Adams.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, what can you do? Just okay. Well, anyway, Fred, thank you as always for having me.
Thank you for coming on. This is great.
This
You
was a
know,
good one. I enjoyed talking about the Roman Empire with you.
we're literally gonna just have an entire episode we talk about it.
But we have to show up in togas. We gotta just do the whole thing.
It's just gonna be a bed sheet. That's all I'm gonna
Of
do.
course, what do I have, a toga?
All right, go get your kids some
Okay.
pizza. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
If you haven't subscribed, Larissa, check out,
Email
and
body.
also books. She's got awesome books on awesome women.
Thank you.
Definitely check some of those out.
Thank you.
So Y'all have a good one. I'll catch you next Friday.
Next Friday.
All
Okay.
right. Bye.
Bye.